Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Bail Things podcast, a Freemy production. I'm Raina, and this is your host, Nicole. In last week's episode, we talked a little bit about who sets bail and why it feels like an unfair system. Nicole, what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about what to do if you can't make bail.
So we discussed who sets bail, but what happens after that?
So after bail is set, you typically have an opportunity to use the phone. Everybody wants to call all of their loved ones or call a bondsman to try to get out. Most of the time people get out, relatively soon after setting bail, whether that be a couple hours, maybe it's half a day, something like that. But if you don't have access to the fee and you don't have a qualified co-signer and you don't have access to the full bond amount, you're more than likely just going to stay in jail.
Why is money normally such an issue when there's people like bail bondsmen that are there to help?
So money is an issue because the criminal justice system uses money in the bail process. We are here to help, but we can't help everybody. We can't get everybody out of jail. So if a bondsman has determined that they can't help you, then your only option is to put up the full bond amount.
So if someone doesn't have the money to pay a bail bondsman, what other options are there?
So the other options are to pay the full bond amount yourself, or you can ask the magistrate for what's known as a PR bond, a personal recognizance bond. In some jurisdictions, it's known as an OR bond or a general order bond. And those are what's known as the free bond. You get out of jail free. Those are only limited to low-level misdemeanors or first-time offenders. And typically, everybody likes that. Everybody wants that option. What's happening now in the criminal justice system is if you are granted a PR bond, you're also put into the pretrial program. And you're basically performing like a guilty person before you're even found guilty. Let me see. The program is modeled after probation. So you're going to have to submit to random drug tests. You might have to wear an ankle monitor. If you're not employed, you have to actively be looking for a job. And then you're also going to have to pay the pretrial program fees. And how is that fair?
So what are some reasons why you as a bail bondsman wouldn't take a bond?
That's a good question. And a lot of times people think it comes down to money, and that is an important part of it because we do provide a service and I am in business to make money. But the bigger red flag for me is if nobody wants to co-sign for you. If nobody wants to co-sign for you, then you're basically just out there on your own trying to navigate the system on your own. You don't have a good support system that's going to help you stay on the right track and stay out of jail. So another red flag for us is if you don't have stable residential history. That signals to us that you're a red flag. You're a flight risk. And because if you don't know where you're going to stay when you get out of jail, you could be staying on the streets. You could be staying at a hotel, or you could stay on friends' couches, and it's going to be really, really hard to get a hold of you when it is time to come to court. Another red flag is if you don't have stable employment history. If you don't have stable employment history, then you don't have a reason to be out. There's nothing keeping you consistent in order to complete the conditions of being on a bail bond.
So what is the difference between a co-signer and indemnity?
So there is no difference. They are basically the same thing. Indemnity is the legal term for co-signing or for guaranteeing something. So whenever you go to finance a car or finance a house, sometimes the bank will require a co-signer to guarantee the loan. So basically that's the same thing. A co-signer guarantees the bail bond if you don't show up in court.
So you mentioned earlier that it is more difficult for people to stay out of jail when they do get a bond. So why is it so difficult for people to stay out of jail when they get the bond?
It's difficult to stay out of jail after they've already been in jail and out on bond because for a lot of people, jail is rock bottom. And if you don't have a stable support system, if you don't have a strong social circle, you're just going to go right back to the things that led you to go to jail in the first place. We see a lot of people, we bond them out, they end up right back into the pits of what led them to jail in the first place. So for me, co-signing is probably more important than the fee. In a lot of situations, we let people put like a down payment on the fee and then make payments towards the total fee because if you don't have a stable support system, if your social circle is not going to be engaged to help you stay straight, in other words, you're going to end up right back in jail. I mentioned earlier about getting out of jail with a PR bond. In our line of work, we see a lot of people that don't show up in court when they get a PR bond, or they revoke their bond conditions when they get a PR bond. And because that happens because nothing in the PR bond system or pretrial program engages their social circle. Nothing in the pretrial program engages their social circle. So for us, our process is to have somebody come in and sign paperwork and make them legally bound to pay their bond if you don't show up in court. And that mechanism in and of itself engages your social circle.
Are there options for people who don't have anyone who's willing to show up for them?
The only option would be the PR bond. Some jurisdictions across the country let people out, like I was saying earlier, for low-level misdemeanors or first-time offenses. Sometimes you have to stay in jail for a couple weeks to get that process started. Sometimes you have to get an attorney involved. For felonies, that changes a little bit because if the court system doesn't indict you within 90 days, then you become eligible for a PR bond. But again, you have to have an attorney initiate the process. It's not guaranteed. Other than that, there is no other option. You could just stay in jail until your first court date. You can plead not guilty and then maybe get out at that point to fight your case, or you can just plead guilty and then just use the time that you were in jail as sort of like a time served credit.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you, Nicole. What can we expect on the next episode?
So, good question, Raina. So, on the next episode, we are going to talk about why I do bail. If you've learned anything or if you've enjoyed what you've been hearing, please like and follow us on social media. On TikTok, I'm Free Me Bell. On Facebook, I'm Free Me Bell. And on YouTube, I am Free Me Bell. This has been the Bell Things Podcast, a Free Me production.